Well, we may be down a little bit today on crude oil, but that's a long-term chart. And as you can see, year to date, we're up better than 30% on crude oil. The last trade, $125.10 the ounce. There are a lot of people who would like to see that changed, especially if you've been going to the gas pump recently. In California, well over $4 a gallon.
Brutal.
Here, at least it's close to $4 a gallon. And Senate Democrats think that perhaps one way to do that is to come up with ways to try and regulate or change the way that energy futures are traded. And Senator Reid is putting forward a bill. It is called the Consumer First Energy Act, sponsored by Senator Harry Reid of Nevada. And he feels that it will address some of the concerns. Would that help the market, or would it be too much government intervention? Joining us now is Jack Berkman, former Whitewater counsel, whose past clients include American Petroleum Institute, also Daniel Weiss, senior fellow at the Center for American Progress. Welcome. Jack, I think I know what you're going to say about this, but one of the issues is to raise margin requirements, and a lot of the exchanges do that to try and wipe out speculation, or at least try and control speculation. What are the issues that you have with that?
Well, I don't think controlling speculation is ever a good thing, Sue. I mean, basically, this is a kind of price control. It's clearly de facto price control. I think we tried that once about 35 years ago with Richard Nixon, and it really didn't work. I don't even think George McGovern would have supported something like this. I don't even think Barack and Hillary would support this. I have no idea who dreamed this up. It's frightening. I'm shocked that the Senate leadership would put its name behind this. But, you know, more broadly, oil, let me offer you something controversial. Oil is cheap. Gasoline is cheaper. Gasoline is even cheaper. I mean, people walk in, the average man in the United States, all this political panic and demagoguery, the average guy walks into Best Buy, plunks down $2,500 for a plasma screen television, no matter that thing's gone up $800 in the last year. But God forbid if this same schmo has to walk in and pay $28 more a week for gasoline.
Okay.
We have a national crisis that's the equivalent of World War II.
Dan?
Well, I'm sorry that Jack isn't more sympathetic to the 80% of families who make less than $75,000 a year and have seen their gasoline and energy prices more than double since Bush took office.
But are raising margin requirements going to change that for them?
It could help. It's estimated that $30 to $40 a barrel of the price of oil is due to speculation, because right now it's the Wild West out there.
That gets us to $95 a barrel.
Well, that's a huge difference, and that would reduce gasoline prices back down to $3.25 a gallon. You know, right now it's the Wild West out there.
Go ahead, Jack.
But listen to what you're saying. I mean, 30% of anything is driven by the speculators. That's something called the free market, which I think we have forgotten about. People have to make money in oil, or oil wouldn't be sold, there wouldn't be gas, there would have never been automobiles. All of a sudden now we're in this government mode. I can't even believe what we're saying. We're talking about finding the price point on the curve where oil should be.
Dan, what do you say to people who say that there are a lot of legitimate folks in that market who use leverage and have a legitimate use to try to get to price discovery here?
First of all, the big oil companies have made record profits.
That's not relevant to the discussion at hand.
Let me finish.
That's a good thing.
They're plowing their profits into buying back their own stock, not more exploration. Third, we don't want to control it. We just want to oversee it. There is such a thing as market failure. And right now, the amount of money that speculators have to put down to buy oil is too small. Let's raise it.
But
another thing the Reid bill does is it eliminates the ability to go offshore and avoid all regulation and all oversight.
You know, Jack, one of the issues that you brought up that I think is a very legitimate one, it is, and Michelle just mentioned it as well, at what point then, who sets the price? You know, I mean, the market is moving the way it's moving, not just because of speculation in the United States, but there's a lot of fundamentals around the world that have been supporting prices. So
you have to...
Go ahead.
The answer is the market and the speculators, Sue. That's how price is set. Government can't get involved in worrying about what Exxon does with its profits unless somebody wants to step in and nationalize the oil industry. But I'll tell you what they're doing here, what they're proposing to do here is worse than even de facto price control. It's worse than that because you're talking essentially about blowing up the market. The whole thing will be driven offshore. All of it will happen. It's just the U.S. will lose complete control over oil speculation. Then Congress will step in and say, now how do we get it back? Maybe there's some future point where there would be some way in which you would want to regulate it. Then we would want it back. In the meantime, all of it's gone offshore. Now we have no power to do anything with it. But gasoline is cheaper here than almost anywhere in the industrialized world.
Well, except for all of the emerging markets. where it's 19 cents in Venezuela and 34 cents in Iran. I mean, I just did a story about this morning. What we really ought to be working for is that everybody around the world should be paying the market price for gasoline. Then we wouldn't be bearing the brunt, just like with health care and prescription drugs.
The Europeans, I mean, it's a huge political issue in the United States. It's not a political issue in Europe. It's not much of a political issue in Japan.
Dan?
I mean, what you really have...
Well, that's because people in other countries have alternatives besides relying solely on their car, because gasoline has been cheap for a long time. And until we can provide people with those alternatives, whether it's ride-sharing, more bike paths, more transit, until we can provide them with alternatives, people are hurting.
But Dan,
and
if I can ask you this question. If you move to raise margin requirements or somehow limit speculation in one market, do you not then have to do it in all markets? I mean, there are people who are making money in the gold market, that are making money in the stock market, that are making money in a lot of the commodity markets, and a lot of people are not complaining about that.
Well,
so if you regulate one, do you not have to regulate all?
No, because oil is a different kind of commodity. Oil is a
why is oil any different than a food commodity?
Is an irreplaceable commodity that is used for transportation and that many people depend on.
Well,
people don't depend on gold. People, you know, if the price of wheat goes up, then you can buy more oats. You know, there's other alternatives. But for oil, there are no substitutes right now. And we need to make sure that speculators are not profiting unfairly by driving up the prices.
Very quickly, Jack.
When you reach the point where somebody paying an extra $30 or $40 a week becomes a national crisis, you have a broader cultural problem of overspending by the American consumer. And the only way to even begin to investigate this is to look at the full batch of goods that people buy. Why are they overspending? You've got a huge cultural problem. You have to take a broader look at this. You can't just focus on one commodity. I think it's just incredibly stupid to do that.
Okay. Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.